we'll get more information. We'll leave this on as unfinished business. So we get the additional information.
We'll get a cost breakdown.
Okay, that would be great.
When we go to the conference in 2
Yeah, we can
weeks,
bring it up.
just see what the other school boards are doing.
That's a good idea, because they did mention it at the,
Municipalities are doing it, they're not closed caption, they're not providing closed captions. Towns are doing it, they're live streaming it, so, you know, we just see what the other school districts are doing. This is a universal problem.
It is.
We're talking about transparency, and I think this is something that we should definitely look into, because at some point we're gonna have to do it.
no, agreed, and then at the officers training, the NISBA training, they did actually mention that, whereas some of the school districts will put their minutes up, it's the shell of the minutes, as to what all the action items were, and then right next to it is a link to view the video. So this way, if you wanted additional detail, instead of having to read through the minutes, et cetera, you just watch the video. So it's actually efficient. I thought that was a great idea. So I guess it just depends on whether or not we're ADA compliant and how much it costs and all of that. That's a great idea to ask.
And then the live stream
But
versus.
it'd be really cool to have, you know, the media program do it. Do they post things on the high school website, do you know? When the videos? It would be interesting to see how they're doing that.
It's usually shared with each school. Each
Yeah.
school principal will share videos and things like that.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, chain of communication, this one is left on as unfinished business, just as a reminder, the chain of communication is on the website and can be emailed, if anybody wants to email, we have a copy of that as well. We'll remove this off of that for next month. Focus groups and surveys, do we want to table this one for work session to discuss this a little bit further on doing focus groups and surveys?
I think we can have a discussion now. I mean, I
I
don't see
thought
why
we
not.
discussed this last night, but
We discussed
We said if it was a specific item.
Right, I think we kind of, right?
The one thing that I would like to see in a survey is, I can't remember the month, maybe it was 6 months ago, a year, I can't remember, but the third grade innovative furniture, I just remember a group of parents coming that had concerns, and I think it would be beneficial to the board to hear that, like, because, you know,
From specific
just to hear
groups.
specifically, like, I didn't know what the specific issues are, and if that issue is raised, something like that, I mean, something specific, rather than.
Right, to see
Right.
how we were
I
doing
think
with
that-
that
That was
specific.
part of the discussion. I thought it had to be obviously a specific topic.
100%.
We need more information on it, especially from more community members as opposed to the limited amount
Who can attend.
meetings.
No, I agree, yeah, so that it becomes very focused, so that if it's, we want to get feedback on our investment for the third grade furniture, specifically survey the third grade parents. If we want information on how certain programs are doing, so whatever we want feedback on, that's targeted towards that specific group.
Understood.
Not the
Although
whole.
if it's for third grade furniture, I don't know that I would only limit it to the third grade parents. I mean, I have a second grader, but I'll have a third grader in the school or the overall
Or maybe like
budget.
fourth grade that went through.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
third
Or I want feedback from someone who already used it, and was
Yes.
beneficial to those children. So I think that opening it up, and if it didn't apply to me or I had nothing to offer, I wouldn't answer it, you know.
Right. So I
Something
think
like
it's more of a guidance of, is this something we would like to start doing to get feedback? And then it would obviously be up to Dr. Siniak to figure out the logistics based on getting feedback from the community on
Right.
certain topics.
I think if there's an issue.
Yeah, if there's an issue, we
There's an
can,
issue.
by
Just a
consensus,
random
decide if we want to put out a survey.
That would almost be funny, that would almost be like something we discuss in work session, hey, how does everybody feel about X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go
Right,
to you.
and we say
I
how,
would say, can you figure
Figure out how
out
to use
who's
this.
gonna answer this survey? But how are we doing this? Like, that's my question, is how does that get done? Is it-
We've done it in the past
I think
before,
it's a survey
actually.
monkey, didn't we?
But like, but I'm saying, like, is there gonna be somewhere on the website people are gonna be able to add comments? Is it gonna be a connect ed, call if you have an issue, like?
Would it be
how are
okay
we
if
actually-
Friedman answers this, because you were involved in the survey
It's
monkey in
really-
the past, do you
yeah,
remember?
there's
Oh.
a survey monkey, don't we?
Well,
We're not using that now, but you can use the same thing.
Google.
Or.
Yeah, Google Forms.
We did.
There's many different.
so that might be something we need to discuss
The
way
rollout.
further, because we have to figure out how that's actually going to be done.
This might be a work session, because this discussion might be long.
That could be,
That could be really long, so there's a lot of options you can take.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so do we have a motion to table this one for a work session?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, any discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're gonna table this for a work session. Thanks, Sean. Okay, board retreat. This is basically just an item saying that we actually had the board retreat. Went very well. We were able to figure out how to communicate as a board, how to be more transparent as a board, etc. Any other comments on the
Yes.
retreat itself?
I'd like to discuss this further. I will say that I was very disappointed in the retreat as somebody, as a long-standing board member who's been to retreats, and actually, I actually am a retreat facilitator for NISBA. The facilitator didn't speak in length about himself. I actually kept checking my phone. It was about 45 minutes. I found it was unorganized. I did find it a bit unprofessional. There was no agenda. There were no handouts. There was no set of objective. I did express concerns beforehand. Usually a facilitator is somebody that's independent, that doesn't know anybody in the district, doesn't know board members, doesn't know the superintendent. I did have concerns that he's the superintendent's mentor. He did bring along his board president, the former superintendent did lead the conversation. He did take extensive notes when we asked what the notes were for. He wasn't sure. Facilitators should not be taking notes, but facilitators should be actively engaging the Board of Education. And that wasn't always happening. We didn't discuss goals, we didn't discuss vision, we didn't discuss a mission. We did discuss behaviors. And while constructive criticism, I think, is helpful to all of us, including myself, there were some personal attacks and there was no intervention from the facilitator, which I was a little surprised by. I think that the purpose of retreat is to build trust, but when there are personal attacks, it only further alienates and erodes that. So I did feel, I didn't leave feeling great. I know that we decided to move forward as a board and try and do our best. There have been some things since then which have caused me pause. And I think that there were scenarios that he gave us, or recommendations that I'm concerned about. I'm not even sure that we can do legally. And I guess one of my concerns is, and I know that NISBA actually had interviewed me once, is about a superintendent offering a retreat. A superintendent is an employee of the district, so they're looking through things through their eyes. And just to speak to this point of understanding why I was concerned, something he said really stood out to me, and I thought, this is why we shouldn't have a superintendent doing a retreat. He had said there was in his district, which he mentioned many times, which rule number one is really you don't talk about any other district. He said that there was a board member who had served 5 terms, and I wrote it down. He said you would think that would make them good, but it didn't. And I was a bit outraged by this statement, and I was taken back because somebody that's been elected to 5 terms means that they have the support of the community and the taxpayers. So to me, that was a superintendent's point of view. And also the other thing, when you have a retreat, the boundaries are set up front, and one of the mantras really is we attack issues, not people, and I do believe that there was attack at points.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I enjoyed the positivity of it. I thought that talking about how we can interact together, and although there's going to be moments that get heated tension, I do feel overall there were some great suggestions made on how to move forward a little bit as a district, heal as a district, and I had a slightly different perspective on it. Talking about somebody who's been in for 5 terms, they could have gone in unopposed. Doesn't mean necessarily they were elected into terms. So I think it's interesting to hear the different viewpoints.
And the
takeaways from that.
The only other concern I have is, we have 3 board members that are new that haven't been to retreat, so this is their first experience. Really, a retreat is to go over the roles and responsibilities of the Board of Education. It's the separation of goals, it's the do's and don'ts of being a board member, it's the governance of being a board, and none of that was discussed. I would actually recommend that this Board of Education consider doing another retreat with, somebody that, even NISBA, who does this all the time. They have hundreds of facilitators. That this is something that they do day in, day out. I think that the Board of Education as a whole can really benefit from that. I think that it's much more beneficial. And I know that people are taking online courses now, and they offer that. And I know that I always say I'm a big proponent of doing the training in person, but you know, with people working nowadays, it's difficult to do that, and I understand it, but there is a benefit to somebody teaching you live and being able to interact and to ask questions and stuff, and I think that it could have been a much more positive atmosphere. As somebody who did feel attacked and a little bit set up, I did not walk away from that meeting feeling good at all.
Well, I think.
I actually,
Oh,
no, go ahead, Ed.
4 minutes, okay. Well, I think the difference between retreat and board trainings, I know there's definitely board training to discuss what your roles are and do's and don'ts of being a board trustee. I think he did have an agenda, and I think he quickly readjusted because he saw that we had issues that needed to be worked out. I think the retreat was very important for us to become a more effective board of education. I think what went on that night was actually really helpful and cathartic.
Needed to be
He didn't
discussed.
give out an agenda, though, there's no
No, I
agenda.
noticed that, I know we had.
And I will say something, like, as I said, I think constructive criticism is good when you can use set examples of something that's happening in a board meeting that you may have a different view than me, and we can adjust ourselves as board members. I am open to that, I think that's fine. When there was a personal attack on me, I know that the board president jumped in and she said, this had to happen tonight, and I thought, that's outrageous.
The only difference was it happened in a retreat, and not an exec.
I absolutely think it's inappropriate to attack anybody. I think that it
I
doesn't,
didn't
that,
attack.
I would just like to finish my thought. I just think that we are there to build trust
Okay.
and build
If we're-
relationships.
If we're gonna go down this path,
There's nothing wrong with what I'm saying. I'm saying you're there to build trust and you're build relationships.
and
So
we
if
would
you're-
like you to contribute to that trust and relationships, Lindy.
I don't appreciate a snarky remark, but I will just say that when you are attacked, that you know, it erodes it further. And
I didn't feel there was any attacks
I
that
didn't
night.
feel there was attacks at all.
because I was the one attacked.
No, and you know what, and the fact that you came out in public when they can't even see what is within the retreat.
A board retreat is not executive session.
No, I know
It's
it's
not
not
public,
executive
yeah.
session, but you're giving the impression of something that the other 6 board members, I don't believe, felt. So, I really didn't feel it was an exact attack. We just felt how said how we felt that we were treated over the past 2 years. So I don't feel that's an attack, and I don't think it's fair to come out in public and state that someone felt attacked when that is not what the other 6 board members did. So that is something that maybe needs to be discussed further in another retreat. I think it's ironic to come in and pitch NISBA when we have talked about that in the past and we determined that it wasn't worth the money.
I don't care if you don't use
Okay.
this stuff. I don't care who you use. I'm just saying use somebody that you know has a track record of you know.
They have a
being
track record.
professional.
They have a very good track record, and to talk about that, about somebody in their professional expertise, I don't think is professional. I think that the way it was done was describing how they took a community who was in turmoil and were able to build trust again with the community, within the board, and I think the examples that they gave were very helpful. And I took it to heart. I took it to, I think these are great ideas, so excited to move forward. I had a very different perspective on things.
And that's fine, I agree with people. I'm just saying also, when you say that it's not professional to attack, all I'm saying is that the Board of Education spent money on this, the taxpayers' money. In my opinion, as a single board member, I do not think that that was money well spent in this particular situation.
I do, maybe we should ask, do we feel it was money well
I
spent?
felt it was productive, I thought it was a very good retreat.
I'd like to just make one recommendation. I did attend,
Yeah.
it was my, I think, 48 hours since I had joined the board, so, I just would like to make, you know, two notes on. Number one, I would like the record to reflect that I am board trained, I conduct board trainings, I am the general counsel, of an institution, and I am a counsel to the board, so, I just want to make that statement. Also, I would like to make the recommendation that I think we do need some training in the, a reminder perhaps of our roles and responsibilities and our fiduciary duties. I don't know if that's something we could bring up in executive session or public session. I just think, you know, maybe if council wants to present that to us, or if you get a facilitator, I don't know, whatever, I would leave it up to the president and the superintendent to decide, but I do think that, just from going to that meeting, and again, 48 hours on the board, I think it would do us well to just have a, you know, reminder of why we're here, fiduciary duties, and where our boundaries are as board members. I think it would do a service to the public
And that would be covered in mandatory board training, so you haven't had that
Well,
yet.
I have had, well, actually, I have started my board training, and like I said, I do board training every year, and I conduct it for 3,200 employees. Compliance training, I do board training for 2 boards, 15-member boards each, 121 member. So I am well versed, but I think that the board training, I don't think is enough. I will second Wendy's enough. The online training, that's well, and I think there's nothing wrong with the to onboard. I think it's a few hours, 5, 6 hours. So I appreciate doing the online training where we can stop and do the modules, and I commend Joanne for sending that to me within a week. So thank you. But I do think that for all the board, I think it should be a yearly something again that I think that was a miss because something else took over at this retreat. But I think that we do need that, whether it's at a retreat or an executive session. I'm not trying to belabor this, but I think from what my understanding, we do need to be reminded, what our limits are, what our responsibilities are. I think it would be very, very,
I agree.
that's a lot of-
Maybe more training, but I don't know if I want to confuse training with retreat. I think there's two very different goals.
Depends, but yeah, I think additional training on an annual basis may make sense to remind roles, responsibilities, overseeing versus overstepping, like all of those.
Would the board consider doing another one this year, within the year? One that included that?
I think I would agree to it if I felt everybody would go in with an open mind
Yes.
and
I
be willing
agree.
to walk away with a positive attitude.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Are we agreeing to that now, or just?
I mean,
kind of
I'm just
like
saying my
set?
consensus, you wanted my
Well, I don't know,
personal vote,
is it too
because I
soon?
didn't feel, I mean, I think.
Oh, I don't mean like tomorrow, I just mean.
Yeah, the holidays are
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
up, I
I
mean, give it some time.
I think we have to discuss what we mean by retreat
And what-
and training. Again, I don't think, I think they're separate. I think the training is great. Maybe we should all do, the training every summer, but I think retreat is important too, about how we work together and the personalities involved. And I think that's what retreat is all about.
Maybe we can talk about this at the work session?
Good idea.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, so we will add board retreat / training. That's in the work section. Okay. Board officers training schedule. This was the one with reference to the training itself.
Policies.
Oh, yeah, no, this is for the policies. This is yours, Richard. Michelle?
Oh, we're to new business? So
No,
I
this
think
is-
this is,
No, this is board officers training.
yeah, that's what I thought you
schedule.
were too.
Our policy schedule.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes. See, this is why we don't do work sessions on the same night as a board meeting. Yeah, no, we need to do the policy schedule next. So, this ties back into doing the tracking spreadsheet. Thank you so much, Joanne, on that. I know there's a big undertaking, taking all of our policies, making sure that they're tracked in the spreadsheet, when the last time they were updated, whether or not they're on the website as the current version, which is fantastic. Michelle, thank you so much for helping out with that as well, keeping us on track. So,
You're good.
huh?
Well, I'm still unemployed.
So thank goodness you have more time. So yes, so that, we do need a policy meeting, so now what we can do, now that is done, come up with recommendations on how to proceed, and then we can decide as a group, since we're all on the policy committee, on how we want to proceed with which ones do we want to review first, obviously based on some feedback from council, depending on which ones we may need to do first. I think we're pretty good at keeping up to date on those, and just go through them, so that I would say every 2 years we get into this cycle of everything has at least been reviewed, rubber stamped.
Should
in
we
theory.
add one for board vacancy? I think we can avoid a lot of problems.
I think we had-
in the future.
Yeah,
We
we
definitely
have
have that
on
as the
radar.
first one, since we filled it, we definitely now want to make that policy, absolutely, thanks, Wendy.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so that one will be a separate policy meeting, even if we do it before a work session, after a work session, whatever. Try to avoid too many nights. Board officers training schedules, do you want reference to the board officers training that Wendy and I took? Yeah. So Wendy and I were able to attend the board officers training. That's what this one is in reference to. Extremely informative, great to talk to other board presidents, vice presidents, superintendents, what do you do in your district, how do you do this, we're having this issue. Some really great things came out of that, but kind of skipping steps. You know, excited about this one. So some of it, please chime in too. The work sessions were one of the big things that was discussed in there, establishing a culture within the board and within the district. I think, you know, we're pretty good with the culture and keep up the culture of North Merrick. There's also, one of the main things they kept talking about was a team plan and a team journey. What's our North Star? What do we want to achieve? Where do we want to go? So I think a lot of this will be talked about in the work session. And then also, I specifically wrote this down, one of the mantras that they talked about to focus on to keep everybody going in the right direction was do what is best for kids, fair for adults, and that the community can sustain. So I thought that was pretty interesting when someone said that in the training. One of the other districts, they put that up on their wall, they keep that in mind. So every single thing that they do, they read through those 3-point lists. If it doesn't meet that criteria, why are we talking about it? So I think it might be a good idea, like to throw out to the board. We can figure it out now during a work session, whatever, if you want to create some type of mantra like that to keep us on track and start developing some goals and stay focused throughout the whole year. You like that one? Throw it out to.
Anything that says children first.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. It says best for the kids. Best for the kids and fair for the adults. And it's also important that the community can sustain it, because we all put something in place. So, you want to talk about that one really quick? Or do you want to make sure we're excited?
Almost like a family motto.
Yeah, basically, like a model
Like a
of the
mission
board.
statement, we should
To
review
an
our
extent, we
mission
should definitely
Much
review the mission
smaller.
statement and visions,
Right.
but much smaller, just for us to keep reminding ourselves.
Do you mean like a tagline, like, you know, the high school district does that, like each year they have a tagline, and it carries out throughout the year, you know, all about kids, for kids, all about kids, you know, well, you know, promoting wellness. Every year they do that, so that, and it's always about children. So
Exactly.
that's important.
And it keeps it focused on making sure that we're constantly moving in the right direction and focusing on those particular points.
And can I add
I
something
think
about
that
the
would be
training?
good for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have more I
Session.
could go on about the training. It was a lot more in reference to agenda setting, whether or not you take cards during public comments, and reminding the boards that it is a board meeting for us. Oh, so yeah, being able to conduct our business in public and reminding everybody that it is a board meeting for us to conduct our business, and yet it's open to the public so they can have transparency into seeing what we do. That was definitely driven home throughout the entire session. A social media policy, maybe we need to incorporate some type of social media policy. That was one of the recommendations. And focus on what really matters. Success of every child who walks through the doors of our schools. So it was interesting, and even certain things like this, like being able to remember we're a unit, we have these discussions. So
Okay, so I attended, I sat with Jim. It was a pretty well-attended event, and the benefit is just as you'll go to the convention, it is about networking a lot of times, seeing what other districts do, how they handle issues, and really a lot of things that go on here go on other districts, and everything's kind of just, everybody kind of experiences the same things. Things aren't just unique here or anyplace else. One of the things that I thought was interesting when we were sitting at lunch that came up, we were sitting with the leadership of NISBA, the NISBA president, the NISBA ex-president, like people on the board, and there were a couple other board members. So, you know, Jen and I were discussing how to better, have a better culture or, community where things were more even toned, and how do we do that? But one of the things that we brought up was the August meeting, how they, people were upset about the the vacant, I think it was August meeting with the vacancy, but something interesting came out of that I had no idea. I think that you, as board members, nobody knows anything, so you learn and you grow and you do better, right? So this came up, I thought it was interesting, that, and I think that a lot of this is gonna go away now that we opened it to public session, to be honest.
Yeah.
But one of the things was we were only allowing agenda items in the first public session. We had under unfinished business, the vacancy, but there was no indication that it was a vote. So we voted without the public knowing that there was gonna be a vote. So what they said should have happened is, the minute we knew it was gonna be a vote, there was a motion, a second, a discussion amongst the Board of Education, and then we should have, even though it's an unusual circumstance, what they said, it doesn't happen often, that we should open it up to the public, because they should have the right to comment, and for us to consider that, and then do the vote. And I've never heard that before, I didn't know that, so I thought that was interesting. Overall, I thought it was really beneficial, and, you know, I know Jen and I asked a lot of questions ourselves, and it was really a great workshop.
I think I got shut down for questions by the end. Yeah, one of the other things that they did say was, you know, we can talk about committees. They do have a some districts have a community relations committee, which I thought was pretty interesting, and just dealing with community relations. So it's something that we may want to consider in a work session as well. Yeah, those are the highlights of my notes. Community relations committee. Now, it's extremely informative, and like you even said, Megan, in reference to these trainings, it's so great to sit there and go through all of these, and on an annual basis, the refresher trainings.
Which
Yeah,
is,
it
can I
was
hear
very
one more
helpful.
thing?
Yeah.
I was actually gonna put it under public session, but it was actually as a result of this workshop, so if I may add it here. So
Which
one
one's
of,
that one, new business?
well, I had it under, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
still
under
wanna
new
talk
business.
about that then, but this falls under this workshop, because that's where it came out. One of the things is, we were talking about how people do different agendas. You know, this is the first time we're listing items out, and that's fine if that's how you wanna do it, but it's structured in such a way that the board can't bring up new things or something that might come up, or a little bit of free-flowing conversation. So in another district, they said what they have is at the end of the agenda, I guess it would go under after new business, it was just open session for board members. So you spend 15, you know, you have a time frame, you spend 15 minutes on, oh, you know, I meant to bring this up, how about a recommendation on this, or maybe we want to look at this, you know, something like that. It's just, it allows for not to be pigeonholed into never speaking if it's not on here. And I
That's
think
what a
that
work
that's
session is
good.
good for.
Yeah, but I think also
That's
the
perfect
board
for, well, I think that's the intent of the work session that we were talking about, is so that we can have those little more free-form conversations such as that, so it becomes much more collaborative, and then keep these monthly meetings a lot more to doing the business aspect of things, because also I feel bad, everybody's been sitting here for 2 hours just for us to get through the agenda when maybe they don't care about all these items. Whereas if you separate out into a work session, then it can be a little more freeform. And then also, one of the things that they did say in training was to be very careful to make sure that people don't come up here and feel there's a gotcha. So that everybody can come to the table very prepared, so that we have the agenda ahead of time, the public has the agenda ahead of time to make sure, you know, maybe somebody is interested, you know what, policy schedule, I'm really curious about that one, so this is becoming very transparent. You're right, this is new, so it is definitely being very transparent, and then not stifling new ideas, yet maybe coming up with them and then tabling them to the next time, so that we, as board members, are more educated to have a real conversation instead of being caught on the fly. And it's not stifling business, it's just being courteous. That was what was said in the training that I heard.
Well, when we talked about that open session part, I'm just
Yeah.
asking the board to consider it. I'm not saying that we have to or we shouldn't do it or we shouldn't do it. But, you know, to that point, I do just want to bring something up that, you know, we are able to add agenda items now that it's listed. I did ask for public session to be added. I was initially told yes, and then I was told no. Then I asked several times, only after the pushback was it on. But something that was said was, you feel that we all should be prepared to discuss the topic without gotchas. It helps with the trust and the flow, so that we're all prepared to have educated conversation. The thing is that.
You're reading my email out loud.
Well, I didn't read the email in its entirety, I'm just saying what was said to me. So my thing is that, you know, I think if we're adding agenda items, and you're saying so everybody can be well prepared, I don't think that we can give a summary, we don't have to give in detail, because that's what public discussion is about. I have concerns about that with open meetings laws, if it's in an email or an executive session, like this is what we're gonna talk about, I think it's okay to give a little bit, but I will tell you that I was not given the same courtesy for items that I did not add here. I was not given any blurb or any ahead of time, so if, I have no problem with that, I'm okay with handling things on the spot, but you just said to avoid gotchas, we should know in advance, but I didn't know in advance about any of these items.
Which one? You could have asked ahead of time.
But you did explain that, you just said so that we
Yeah,
can
but
all
which item
know.
specifically you're talking about? Which item?
What I'm trying to point out is that, what I'm trying to point out is that you said that we're gonna share information, so we're better prepared, so there's no gotchas. I personally, I can handle anything on the spot, it doesn't really affect me. What I'm saying is that, doesn't that have to apply to everything? Like, if I told you what I was speaking about, and you wanted everybody to be prepared, did everybody get what I was talking about? Was that shared? Or like, why was that said? Nobody shared things with me that was gonna be on here.
That
in
was
detail.
also to make sure we put it in the appropriate spot. So for instance, when you said public session, you had, and I said, can you just maybe give a little bit, that's a broad topic.
Right.
So can we maybe talk a little bit about it, and you had mentioned about maybe removing the agenda
Right,
items
right.
only. So to be more efficient, I took that to heart so that we could put into place tonight exactly what you had wanted. I moved it up the agenda to actually accommodate your request, put it in, and then do it more efficiently, because if we had done it in new business, we never would have been able to open up to a couple of the
No,
comments.
I
that
understand what
occurred.
you're saying, so I
So
guess maybe.
that was it, and then also I had asked the same thing from Michelle, because she had a very broad topic as well, and then during this
But
discussion.
maybe it was just the wording of it, so I think that we just have to be careful, because like I came in here tonight thinking, you know, I gave detail, but I didn't gain, like, it was how it was worded, Jen. I guess just like next time, you know, if you're saying, it came across to me in the email that you were sharing my topic with everybody, which was okay, and then I felt coming in here like, oh, okay, I didn't know the topics in detail as the detail that was given.
Did you
So I
receive the agenda like everybody else?
I received the agenda, but what I'm trying to tell you is I gave you detail of my item, which is benign, it's not a big deal, I'm honestly not. But in return, I didn't receive the same detail about other items, so are we applying that to I'm just confused by.
I'm completely confused by what you are saying, because this is what it sounds like to me.
Okay, go ahead.
You put something on the agenda,
Yeah.
and you told everybody like 1,000 things about it, and then all these other things came up on the agenda, and you knew nothing. And I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm gonna be very honest with you. That's what I'm making sense out of what you're
Wait, say that
saying.
again, wait, just say
It
that again.
sounds like you wanted something on the agenda,
Yeah.
and we all knew everything about it. And
That's how
then-
it felt to me.
Okay, wait a second, and then everything else on the agenda, you knew nothing about.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but what didn't, well, I'm curious, like, what did you know? Because I'm sort of like, I don't think I knew anything in detail, I just knew like a general,
Yeah.
sort of, this is what we're gonna talk
Oh.
about. So
Right,
I'm really,
that's what I thought.
I'm confused.
Right, and that's what I thought. I thought I got the agenda, and here's the items, and that's the end of it. I guess the wording was, so we could share it and everybody could be prepared. I'm like, but who are you sharing the detail with? It was so we could share the detail. It was confusing to me as well.
But detail on what? That's where
The detail on the agenda item.
Okay.
So, it's,
Sorry, I'm not doing.
I just want to make sure, is everybody getting,
Everybody's been treated the same way, Whitney.
Yeah.
Everybody's been treated the same way.
okay.
Just to make
Yeah.
sure that when we show up to the table, everybody feels comfortable and prepared.
But if the agenda
That was the
item.
whole
Okay.
point. So that it's like, you know, public session can be a very broad topic, so that's why it's a little bit of clarification, so people come mentally prepared.
But does
Programs,
anybody see what
the
he's
same
saying?
type of
Everybody
thing.
keeps saying.
If you, I had no idea about public session, if that makes you feel any
No,
better.
no, it does, but do you get what I'm
I
saying?
didn't know, and that's okay, I'm okay with that, like, I'm
No, but what
really
I'm saying,
okay
she
with
said,
it.
so I asked for more detail so everybody can be prepared. It just says public session, so
Right.
I don't understand it.
I thought.
So if somebody doesn't
I thought we
understand what the, you know,
Oh, you're saying if
topic
somebody has
is-
a question, you can answer it? Is that what you meant by that?
Not into labor detail, that's against the open meetings law, but a simple question of, Jen, I see public session on the agenda.
Okay,
Jen,
that's
what
not
does
how
that
I
mean?
Okay, that's
That's
fine.
absolutely no problem,
It's
because it's not a discussion.
It's fine.
just, what is this about?
That's not,
That's fine.
that's not how it came across to me, which is why I just asked for
Okay,
clarification.
right.
So it's not a problem.
Yeah, no, it's just, so we have an idea of generally what exactly competency for things.
No problem at all.
And do your research first.
Okay.
Okay, that was that one. Now on to new business, I feel bad, I think people want me some more. New business programs, I think, are we tabling this one to your work session?
I would love to.
Oh,
However,
okay.
it's on here, so I kind of feel like I need to say a little something because I think it's not fair to say what it was about, and of course, nobody knows.
Yeah.
So, I'll have to think before I speak. I'm not entirely sure if I can. It came up within teacher negotiations and how tight our budget is as a district,
Yeah.
that some things might be on the chopping blocks. Therefore, some programs might have to be eliminated if.
I think we need to table that for
No. So one of the programs was either the Wings program. No, it's just,
I
it's
just wanna
our
make sure.
budget's really tight and we're
Okay.
negotiating.
Got it.
I'm not saying anything else.
That's-
And that, some programs, if we can't come to a settlement, are going to be on the chopping block. Music, art, and wings. Never in a million years will don't look at me like that. You want to be transparent, and I said it, and I'm gonna say it. Sorry, we sit here and listen to Wendy all night long, you're going to listen to me too. So, obviously, never in a million years going to give up music and art in a district. However, I have heard major feedback from a lot of people about a wings program and our wings program. Why are you all looking at me like I'm crazy?
No, we're not looking at you like crazy, I just wanna make sure that we're not
No,
getting.
not you, not you. I'm looking at That's what it was about. I wanted to evaluate.
A reminder
Right,
of
am I
the
thinking-
board roles and responsibilities, because this should not be going on.
I just wanna be really,
Negotiation.
Well, there's a lot of
clear
shit that shouldn't be
from-
going on right now, but it's going on, so, like, I just don't understand.
Should we be talking about negotiations?
No, I said it is a result of that, and that was it.
I don't know where you're going with this, but I will say this, to the extent you're going to discuss anything that was discussed during negotiations or maybe the result of negotiations, you should not be discussing that in public.
Understood.
You want to
Except
discuss
it's on here now, and Wendy's going to say, well, it's on here, we should say something, as you do with everything. So I'm giving a little bit of like, well, now it's food for thought. Maybe we're looking at it going, this is the best program ever, or ways, just like after school, we can improve this program, or make it beneficial to all children, not just one thing. So it was about programs, or adding programs like that for other things. It was about programs for the students, for our children, because children are first.
No,
That's what.
Okay,
I'm
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And
No,
maybe-
now you understand.
I think programs for the kids is 100%
Right.
an item that needs
And
to
then
be
how it
discussed in
came up.
specific
Right.
details, 100%.
And I think that's, when we talk about surveys and getting information, listen, if someone's saying wings is whatever you heard, then
Well, you
let's
know what's gonna be on
survey about
social
it.
media tomorrow is that Michelle Gordon said wings is, should be in the garbage pail, which she didn't say. But,
And they'll all be here next month.
exactly, and they'll be there. They can stay for the 2 hours if they want to. but-
So to
That's-
clarify,
Yeah.
To clarify, it was more evaluating our program, so, no, I'm sorry, I'm not heated here, I'm listening to everybody else. I say one thing, you all look at me.
no, no.
What's it?
No, no,
No.
because you're singing at me.
No, wait, okay,
I'm not.
hold on. Okay.
So, in other words, you would like to look at all of our programs and see what could either be improved or made better for the district. Kind of like how when someone came up with after school,
Right.
all of a sudden it was this big thing like, oh my God, you're gonna get rid of after school. By the way, that was the only time I've ever been approached by a community member was at the DMV. And somebody said to me, you're not gonna cut that program, are you? And I was like, what? I just need my kid's license right now. So that's, and that was something that we should have spoken about, a little, and not gotten the community in an uproar.
Right, and I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
I would like to have a separate work group just for programs.
I think think that's a great
Great
idea.
idea.
I
I'd
think,
like to talk about all programs.
Thank you.
Anything that's contemplated to be cut or added, and that's in public. And I
Yeah.
would like that to go on an agenda publicly, so everyone in the public
can hear it, right, that 100%, because that definitely needs to be deep dived into. So I
May
definitely
I?
want to talk about it.
Interject. There are many times that the Board of Education directs the superintendent to evaluate, take a look at various programs, and I think that's what this could possibly lean toward at a work session, and especially with the upcoming budget season, which I know Tom had mentioned January, but it's really a November start, to be honest with you, and we do have many unfunded mandates, as all of you are well aware, and one of the new ones is a guidance counselor, and I'm not saying that that will cause cuts, but it is cause to take a look and take a deeper look. But just to bring to many people's attention, the board did direct me last year to take a harder look at the WINGS program, and it was revamped, and it was reformatted, and it does look very different than it did in the past. So that it would be a very fruitful conversation with a lot of good information to share with the board.
Perfect, and I agree, it should be a work session in public to be talking about those types of programs, not an exec. Okay, very good, so that'll be a separate work session just for programs. Okay, great. Next one is student and teacher presentations at board meetings.
Tonight was great, right? I thought
Yes,
tonight
Right,
was
we
very
want
good.
more of that.
More.
And I spoke with Michelle about this, and we were both like, absolutely. I just want to hear more from our creative teachers. I want to hear more from our students. I want to hear what's going on in the district. I want to be informed as a trustee, and that's, I think, the best way is to have them make presentations. Tonight was great. You know, hearing from what's going on. Beth, awesome job, kind of getting that together really quick, but that was such, important for us to hear what's going on. I mean, it helps us make decisions when we start talking about programming, things like that. We need to know. So
Yeah.
let's hear from the experts, the kids, and our teachers.
Perfect.
Inquiry.
Agreed. Okay. Coffee with the Board of Education. This is one that came up during the retreat. Oh, that was both. Oh, actually, sorry. This is actually meant to be Board of Education / Superintendent. Oh, sorry, that was my bad. Thanks, Tracy. Tracy, you are.
You didn't want to
100% correct
correct
on
me.
that one. Yeah. So, coffee with Board of Education. So, there was some discussion about this at the retreat. It was an idea that was thrown out there. So I thought it was worth discussing as a board, trying to see if this is something we would like to pursue to help assist with community relations. So just to recap a little bit, make sure everybody remembers it's late, was to open up our homes one at a time, two at a time, superintendent there, however we want to coordinate our schedules, rotating, we can figure that out later. The general concept of inviting community members in to talk to a board member. And it's not to discuss things in particular, it's more to hear what people have to say and bridge the gap a little bit. I want to open that one up for discussion.
I like the idea. I mean, we talk a lot about the divide in the community. I think it's a really good idea. I think it's great for us to have these listening sessions. We're not going to be conducting board business. We're not going to be quizzed and answer questions. It's going to be listening to hear different sides of people's thoughts and opinions and what's important. And I think as trustees, it's good to educate ourselves of, what the community's thinking. I think that's a really good way to do it.
I think we need to be careful about something that often you say, Wendy, is that we can't act by ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this, if we are going to move forward with this, and not that I wouldn't want to do this, but hesitant about, I can't speak for the board. We speak as one unit, and we have to be very, very careful about listening only. We cannot answer any questions, and public perception is going to be that we are. And I'm just saying that because if I went to go talk to a board member, I would want my questions answered, and we can't. We can't speak for this entity.
Absolutely.
And so that, I just think it's gonna be tricky.
again, something we should talk about in a work session, because how does that work?
Well, let's
That's
ask
the
other
tough
districts
one.
that do it. I know there are a
Yeah.
number. Let's
I'd like
find out.
to find
Let's
out,
do
maybe we
that.
could talk
Absolutely.
about.
Let's do some homework
Yeah.
here. and see
Yeah.
what-
Tracy and I had this conversation. I have a couple of concerns about this. It's funny, I laughed and I really digested this. At first, I was like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. And I really pondered upon this a lot. I think there's a couple of issues here. I think that we issued a chain of command going directly to the super and board is an issue because we're not implementing our own chain of command. I think that having it in our home, you have to have a board meeting, and when the board is gathered, the board has to be in a public session where everybody's gathered, because then it can come across as a pseudo board meeting. You can't have a quorum, so it only can be 3 or less. Who's gonna decide who's there? Because I certainly am not comfortable with board members going places when I don't know what the public's saying to you, that maybe can be misinterpreted later. Well, I'm not comfortable with the board members speaking and I'm just not there firsthand. I think it's different if parents have concerns and they meet with the superintendent. I think it's totally appropriate. I think that should be happening. I think if it's about, I think there's a lot of politics going on here now, you know, that's overall in the community. I think that, I think it can come across as politicking. I think it can come across as looking to gain votes. I want to stay away from that. I don't want anything to do with that, to be honest. I don't think that we should meet with, I mean, who would you invite? I mean, you're only going to invite limited people. I personally think it's a disaster. This is one of the things I was talking about when that facilitator recommended something. I really thought about this in the beginning. I was like, okay, this is good. And then I thought, the superintendent can't meet on behalf of the board, you know, she can't speak for the board, she's not an elected official, you know, she meets with parents, she runs the district, she's here to make sure the children are safe and get the best education. I think I think we're almost trying to sidestep what's going on. You know, we have an obligation to hear from our constituents. I think we should hear from them as a whole. I think the board meeting is the proper setting.
I didn't say
would
the
try-
board meeting wasn't the proper setting. I'm just saying,
No.
let's ask
It's
other
just
districts how they did. I mean, I'm just
Right.
looking for other avenues. I think it was good. I'm not saying, you know, to eliminate board meetings and have this instead, but listen, it was just an idea. I thought that would help. I'm not saying I have the answers of how it's going to work. Why can't we look into
I
how other
think it
districts do
also
it?
came about because North Merrick is such a warm, tight community. So maybe throwing that out there would become part, it would just help keep that culture of North
Why don't we look
Merrick.
into it?
with a
Listen,
warm,
we're
tight-
going to
it was just
discuss
an
it right
idea
here.
to
We
throw.
don't really know.
Hey, almost everybody in my house.
Let's, how about we just decide we're gonna ask around other
I have
districts
no
and see
problem
how
with
it works.
talking
Just
about
like that, we don't have to decide tonight we're doing it or not doing it.
And, no, and it's just an idea, and it's not, and it's meant with positive intentions, good intentions, and honestly, I trust the board members here to have a level of professionalism that if you were to have one of those postings, you would know the boundaries, you know what you can and can't say, you know what is appropriate, so I would trust each and every one of you.
But
to
I don't
have
think it's
those
always
conversations.
necessarily the board, I think it's also the public. Things can be misinterpreted, misrepresented, things posting. I think there is I agree with Ed,
It
no
happens
decisions
now.
being made. I just think it puts the board at tremendous risk. I'm concerned about that.
Okay. I personally don't see as much of a risk. All right, so do we want to consider this now, table it for, I mean, we keep tabling everything.
I know,
I hate to like table
like I said,
everything, it's kind of just like.
let's reach out to some districts that do it, see how it worked and how it worked for them. Just,
So-
that's it.
Yes, unfinished business.
Unfinished business, if we have a work session before next month, we'll put it on the work session agenda. If we don't have a work session, then we'll put it in. Okay, really good. I'm making me way too much.
Okay, so I have unfinished.
Okay. Coffee with Board of Education / Superintendent. Okay. Public session, can we cover that one, or is
Again, I
there?
want to commend the board for allowing that. And the only thing that I have to add to public session is maybe we could get a new microphone or something, a stand, because that always is a problem. Maybe like, does this
Yeah.
come in a stand, like a stand
No,
version?
we actually looked into, that's the appropriate microphone for a stand, not a stand, whatever you want it's light stand.
These are so
These
great.
are just tabletop.
They're
So,
clear.
no, I understand. So we did look into it, Sam, when you had, remember you said that they said that that was the appropriate, I don't know.
Yeah, there's two kinds of microphones, ones that you sing into and then ones that you speak into. These are for speaking.
Yes.
I thought the kids sounded great,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I
As long as
didn't
we
think it
can
was
hear.
that hard
I
to hear
think
them.
once you swapped it out, I think it was much better. It what?
How'd that better?
Oh, I have dead battery.
Oh.
Simple solutions for simple problems.
It's like a Duracell commercial. Okay. Okay, now we are up to public. Same procedure applies. I'll go through it quickly. Any person wishing to make comments or raise questions shall come forward to the microphone and state their name and address. Questions are Questions to be addressed to the board president, not to the individual board members. Personal attacks on individual board members, administrators, and staff will not be tolerated and may be caused to adjourn the meeting. There will be no back and forth dialogue. Out of courtesy and fairness to the rest of the audience, each visitor will limit his or her remarks to one item, not to exceed a 30-minute session, or ask only one question. Public discussion on matters related to staff and students by which their reputation, privacy, or rights to due process or those of others could be in some way violated is prohibited.
I'm not
Name and
the only
address.
one that has a question. Now, you said questions, so when you read your blurb, you have to make sure that you take out, strike the word questions if it's gonna be comments. So I'm listening to you guys all night talk about transparency. I have a couple of issues with this. In the past, on the resolutions for the conventions, the cost of the nightly hotel stay was listed there. Also, very important, you guys spoke of 2 trustees that are going to the convention. I think you all should go to the convention. I think you're gonna learn a lot. I think it's great. However, you didn't pass a resolution for Ms. Miller and Ms. Gordon to go to the convention. It was in the last meeting. Read your minutes, you have it there. The only thing you did for them is you put them on as voting delegates. Where's the resolution? In August, you passed a resolution for Ms. Highland and Ms. Gargiulo to go, and then tonight, you passed a resolution for the new board member to go. There is no resolution allowing the other 2 members to go. And you don't put your minutes on time, so nobody can even look back in the minutes. So you have the minutes in front of you that you just approved, read them and see that you have no resolution. So please stop talking about transparency and make sure that you are transparent, because right now, all it sounds like is lip service. You gotta stop. And honestly, this board has been a joke. You please, it's 10:30 at night, and you guys are bickering. This is ridiculous. This is not a board.
Thank you for your comment. We'll take it under consideration.
Hi, I'd like to recap, or I guess we can't ask a question, but I'll just make a statement. I think what I heard at the 2-hour, 15-minute mark is that we're in a teacher contract negotiation and it's on the table to cut music, art, and wings, correct?
No,
No. Okay, that's what it sounded like.
sorry, that's not, no.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
Can we clarify, because then what I also heard was sort of a joke making light of this go on social media, and that all of a sudden at the next meeting, there'll be like 50 parents here and they'll be very upset. So I can tell you with confidence that that's what I heard. I'm gonna walk out and text 50 of my friends and say, we're gonna cut music, art, and wings if you don't show up at the next meeting and it's on the table to teacher contract negotiations. So I don't think it's funny. I actually think it's very, very upsetting that this is even, I don't wanna live in a district that doesn't wanna have these programs. I don't think it should be made light of it, and I'd like some sort of clarification, because it sounds like that's what's going on, and people need to know that.
Okay, thank you. And Michelle, I just want to recap your comments to just make sure that we are still offering the best programs for our children. And that was the intent and recap of that conversation, and we're moving to a work session on
It was,
that.
I said 3 off the top of my
Yeah.
head that are big programs
Big.
that
Okay.
during basically our budget is very tight. It's no secret that we are in a very small district and we don't have a lot of funds. However, what we're looking at, and possibly if we can't come to any conclusion or any with that, there might be a cut of programs.
So if there's not a conclusion with the teacher contract negotiations, then there
That's
will be a
not-
lot of programs, but I don't
that's-
hear in the middle there what is in the best interest of the children.
Yeah, it's kids first. Yeah, please, yeah, can you chime in?
To the extent that the resident at the microphone is asking for clarification, if the superintendent wants to provide clarification regarding that very specific statement, that somehow that negotiations is directly tied to a cut in programs, if you want to clarify that that was not the intent of the board member, you can certainly say that.
Are these two
I don't-
things connected? What I don't want to do is I don't want to go and give misinformation to friends that might be interested in
And
this.
I really appreciate that. I really
But
do.
it's, this is, I'm videotaping, people can certainly see what was said and what is being said, and I can tell you, as a parent that cares a lot about music, art, and wings and other programs in the community, and I'd like to think that some of my tax dollars are going towards that. I care a lot about it, and I will certainly have a group here next time around. It's important.
We as a board care a tremendous amount for the programs for our students. So we as a board want to offer all the programs we possibly can to our students.
Right, but what I think I just heard is because there's a teacher contract negotiation going on and the budget is tight, that all programs are going to be reviewed because we can't afford all of them. So we're going to have to figure out what we want to do
That
and what we don't want to do.
I don't think is the intent of that.
And I know I
It's
didn't say
not-
that.
Only if I may?
Please.
When I spoke about taking a look at programs, it was for quality. There are no programs at this point that are connected, as legal counsel said, for clarification to negotiations. When I spoke about evaluating programs, it's about quality of programs and revamping them, as I was directed 2 years ago, to take a look at the WINGS program and see if we could do it differently and more efficiently, as well as provide a better, a higher quality program. It wasn't about the cost at that point. And that's what I was talking about personally. And as our Gercio stated, there was no connection that was stated here between teacher negotiations and cutting of
We
programs.
just talked about a tight budget.
Our budgets are tight, yes,
And it was just talked about that if it can't be resolved, then these things are on the chopping block. That's
No,
not
I said
correct.
my concern is if it doesn't get resolved, these things will be on the chopping block.
I think-
And we're looking at other programs or adding to, so for all children. There's another parent who wanted an anti-bullying program. There's a lot of programs that I think would benefit all our children. And
So it would be.
Okay, I think it's been, and I do appreciate this, I think there was a complete misunderstanding in reference to the intent of the comment. Yes, it's no secret there were under negotiations currently that is public. The structure behind that is done in executive session. The board is looking to just look at programs, not to cut any programs, just to make sure that we are offering the best programs for our students. That's the intent of discussing it, and that can be discussed at the work session.
At this point, it would probably be in the district's best interest to let the community know what programs are being reviewed to potentially.
And that's
Well,
the
that's why I
intent.
suggested that we
Yeah.
have a separate one
Michelle.
for only programs.
And I think that,
I think that
I
I
would
understand,
understand.
I'm owning it, and I like her suggestion, so
Yeah.
with all due respect, and on this time, and usually I follow the rules, that I think it did deserve a little clarification, and I'm sorry, because it was me who said it, but Megan's amazing.
I appreciate what you said,
Yeah.
because people have a right to know what's going on, and so
Absolutely.
I appreciate that,
Yeah,
but
different
it's
sessions.
then to make light of
session, we decided as a board, we will have a separate work session just for programs, to make sure that we are offering the best programs for the students, reviewing them, and making sure that we can squeeze every dollar out of our budget to
The best
continue.
programs or the best programs considering the cost?
Well, it has to be both. I mean, no
Right,
matter
right,
what,
you're
it
saying
always
it's the best for the
I would love
kids,
to
but-
I'm gonna leave it at that. We will definitely have a work session just on programs, because it is a public session, it is extremely important. I get it, I own kids
I would
in this
ask
district.
if there is a work session on the programs, that
It
the
will
community is
definitely be
given
publicized.
sufficient notice,
Yes.
that they're not given a day's notice, they're
Okay.
given weeks or months' notice of what the date is.
Yeah.
And it's on the website, it's not just on the doorstep.
Nope, 100%, that is very important. Okay, thank you.
So we're talking about possibly cutting programs because of a tight budget. How can you justify spending money going to conventions, staying overnight, when you have a policy in place, 9172, that says that it's reasonable spending of money? So we're talking about possibly cutting back programs, what you're saying over the city of the night, where most people commute to work every single day, and they can make it by 8:30 in the morning, in which the convention starts at 8:30 in the morning. There's ample time to make it to that. I understand it's only one hotel room, or maybe you guys are sharing to save.
Okay, Joanne, do me a favor, take my hotel room off of it, and I'm gonna pay for my own room. Okay? Sorry, Joanne, I didn't mean to get so firm with you, but I'm not sitting here getting so many questions over a hotel room when I can afford my own hotel room. Okay? Please do me a favor, take that off, I will pay for the hotel room for myself and whoever I'm sharing it with. Okay. There we go, just saved ourselves a little bit of money.
Good, you go to the kid.
I know it's 20 to 11, wall is off, and then pay my babysitter 48 hours for him. I mean, you guys need to look at yourselves. The meetings have been 2.5 hours on average. Before the retreat, we had heard that you guys were gonna have a retreat, you were gonna set goals. I heard a lot of, difference of opinions here about the retreat. 4 people loved it, 1 person obviously felt crucified by it. Apparently he didn't talk about goals, because then you mentioned talking about goals again. I've never been to so many board meetings where so many items have been tabled constantly. Items are tabled, it's incredible. When the board says things, you have to own it. For the last 2 meetings, there's been a joke about what was said about the aftercare program. I know Cronum, we put that up. I put in a simple blurb. To me, that was one of the least important things that you said at that July board meeting. But then, people read the minutes, thank you God. We got 100 people here in the August meeting, and there was a joke made. No one ever said that meeting was getting cut. I put the quote that you said, and Dr. Seniak then put that she was gonna look into options. All of that stuff was proven true come August when a lot of people came. Dr. Seniak mentioned the options that she looked into. Ms. Gordon, tonight made a joke about being on social media. Yeah, we're recording now because I was taking 50 pages of notes. It was taking me between 15 and 20 hours to write every single word down. And thank you God, we're recording it now. So everything you guys say, you have to own and be responsible. This is not normal. This is so dysfunctional that hopefully before the next meeting, you guys can figure this out.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I do also want to bring to the attention as a clarification, I do have the August 14th agenda on me. Is that the one I just forwarded to you?
I wasn't here. So at one point it says, someone expressed that it's like, you can't remember that part again.
It was Dr. Seniak, myself, and oh wait, this is the wrong one. This is,
I know that I asked for one of them.
Yes, you can't vote in that correct.
So then on the August 14th meeting, when I was not here.
Look at your website. Look at your website. I mean, I'm sorry, this is somebody else. I will. It doesn't matter, but you're going to do that report. Look at your
So, let me just clarify. So, I need a motion. So, let's make a motion to amend the board 14 to include Tracy Miller and Michelle Gordon to attend the convention.
I'll make a motion.
Right here. That's the August plan. Minutes.
At that time, my understanding was Michelle Gordon and Tracy Miller expressed their desire to go, and then they just Yes, I thought that.
Yes, there was.
But when the minutes were done, the names were not included, so we're gonna amend the minutes. Okay? Okay. So we're gonna make a motion to amend the minutes of August 14 to include Tracy Miller and Michelle Gordon. That's okay. I'm a little,
Thank you.
Second.
thank you. The rest-
All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Never gonna, thank you, thank you, Joanne.
Thank you for cleaning that up.
There you go.
Like, I know we had.
It was definitely, like, I
Okay, and this is why I'm looking forward to doing a work session, so we don't see this.
How you gonna turn this meeting?
Okay,
I'll make a motion to.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Yes.